Welcome, everyone, to Mindful Leadership Beyond Borders. I am Betska K-Burr, the Guru Coach, together with my very handsome co-host from Raj Vashisht from Delhi, India. We have so much fun on these podcasts, and our delightful guest is Tom Rosenak, and he is from Chicago, Illinois.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah. I have to say, Tom, I love the name of your company, Diamond Mind. And, we do exercises in our coaching practice with diamonds in the head and so on and so forth. And so I thought, maybe there is some similarity here in the processes that we use, because the mind, as we all know, is a diamond, right? We are so well connected to our higher power, if we want to be or not. we have the power to be whomever we want to be. So listen, folks, let me introduce you to
I'm interrupting you first.
Yeah, go.
Tom is my always favorite name.
Oh, good for me.
Tom is your what?
I always my favorite name, Tom.
Oh!
Because of Tom Cruise.
Oh,
okay.
Tom Cruise. I thought you were going to say Tom Sawyer or something like that.
Or Tom and Jerry, the cartoon.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's even better. Yeah.
Yeah. Please, let's carry on. Sorry.
So Tom is a communication expert, leadership coach, and passionate facilitator of transformational conversations. And when I think about my career, it's one of the most, if not the most important thing that we can have is a conversation where we are transforming, where we are connecting. So we're going to learn a lot from this guy today. He has over 25 years of experience guiding Fortune 500 firms, entrepreneurs, and nonprofits. He helps individuals and teams unlock their strengths, elevate performance, and communicate with clarity and confidence. Major, yeah. So whether he's conducting executive coaching or presentation training or influence building workshops, Tom meets people where they are, which is a gift, and helps them get to where they want to be. He's the co-founder of A Leadership Beyond, a podcast and community of conversation, bringing out the best in leaders. So let's dive in. Tom, I'm curious what, you are a leadership guru. You don't carry that title, but you certainly are. What molded you to be the leader? What events or stories can you tell us that molded you to be the
One
leader?
word.
What?
One word. Failure.
Oh,
Failure.
yeah.
Yeah. So, we were talking a little bit about ADH before we went online, and we didn't know anything about it then, but my parents were both lawyers. And I find a graceful way to say this on a public podcast. I sucked in school, and that was the number one emphasis. They would shake you and say, you got to get an education. And the way education worked is they drilled a hole in your head and poured stuff in, and the closest what came out of your mouth or your pen to what the teacher said, the better your grade. And I was miles away from all that. As Raj said earlier about creativity, that wasn't in the program. A story doesn't fit in this box, only a number, and I got the wrong number. And for those in your audience that had been around for a while, but when I was young, the bookstores were tiny little retail places, and we didn't have Amazon. And on the bottom shelf of one of these little bookstores, and I don't remember how old I was, but it was probably junior high, there was a book by Dale Carnegie called Stop Worrying, Start Living. And I pulled that book off the shelf, and something clicked where I thought, I didn't know that you had a say in all this. I thought you either had to do what your parents said or not do what your parents said. And so then I couldn't use this language, but I became a junkie of personal development kind of literature. And my Diamond Mind Enterprises was inspired by the famous Acres of Diamond story told by Russell Conwell thousands of times to raise money to found Temple University. And the short version of the story is there was a rancher, and this gentleman who came through said the way to riches is to go into diamonds. And he got smitten by the idea. He left his ranch, traveled the known world, ended up broke, and died. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, his family was no longer there. The new owner walked and saw a little bit of light in the creek, pulled this out thinking it was just a crystal and put it on the mantle. And that same trader came through and said, "Where did you get that? You have the largest diamond I've ever seen." And he said, "Well, there's acres of them."
Oh my God.
The story is we have acres of diamonds in us, but we're running all over the world seeking greener pastures and not mining the diamonds that are there.
Inside. Exactly.
And so that's what my company's about, is having people look at their inner resources, and then the presentation and conflict management and influence without authority says, okay, when we anchor to those diamonds, we mine them, we have to express them in the world in a way that they shine. And so that's where the inner and the outer meet. But if you don't connect to the inner diamonds, I don't care how articulate you are, your story isn't going to resonate and vibrate with life and power because it's not really yours.
You are so passionate. I love it.
That's just a little bit about me.
Very realistic.
It's just true.
Yeah. So how do you personally connect with the diamonds inside of you?
Well, I came upon a process called the Momentum Process. I'm also the author of Your Momentum Playbook. And in a sense, I have license to brag about it because none of it's my own. I just refined it with my own language. But it's a simple distinction between having a war within versus aligning and choosing your true north, and then refining the way you respond as the world happens. So, for example, when I coach, we do something called processing. And processing is holding love, conscious, active, and present when anything else surfaces, and it's going to surface as soon as you start practicing. But the difference between processing and the war is so suppose you have an affirmation that says, you know, I am abundant. And you look in the mirror and the mirror says, no, you're not, you're dead broke. Well, then you're going to say the affirmation hundreds of times. You're having an argument and you're probably going to lose because the I am broke has done more push-ups in the metaphysical gym than the new affirmation. And it's going to beat you to a pulp. And so we have processed this to say, how can I hold this true regardless of the evidence? And the evidence is just what shows up. So I am abundant and you have a overdrawn checking account. Okay, that's where we start. And so you keep processing, but you hold that truth statement. It doesn't need evidence. The evidence comes after you demonstrate the ability to hold that when something else surfaces. And it'll surface really soon.
Yeah. So the key, what I'm hearing here is that we use love as the driving force. Yeah.
Well, so underlying love. Thank you for clarifying that. That's good. Yeah. So that's the highest value. So it's holding love, conscious, active, and present. And underlying love, you could put in holding success, conscious, active, present when anything else, holding family, whatever it is. So on a specific momentum sprint, it might be something of a lower order, but you're going to align it to the highest of all, which so far that I found is love. But if so, they get to choose their own highest value. But I haven't found one higher than that. But if you do, I'm open to it. But it doesn't matter because it's your process, your momentum playbook.
Yeah.
But if you say, I'm challenging, I'm stuck in my career, and then you define what elements a great career would have. Your truth statement might be that focused, but it's a member of the family of how you define the order of good. That's probably going deeper than you meant to, but that's what comes up when you ask that question.
So what I'm hearing you say is that it's time on the planet now to refine the definition of success, right?
Amen.
Yeah. So tell us about that. Why is it so
important?
So
you asked what got me into this, and I said failure, and I was only being partially tongue in cheek, but the way my parents defined success, I was doomed. And they didn't mean it. I love them. They were just, they wanted me to do better than they did. And they thought you had to be a lawyer, doctor, or accountant. And I was not wired to be those things. It was nothing pernicious there. Please hear that. That was their view of making it in the good old US of A. And listening to them, it's almost as though a young child has, I heard some person, I met them at a party, and they said, I said, geez, what do you do? And they say, well, I write trout fishing reviews. And I just was smitten hearing that. And I said, oh, tell me more. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story. But I didn't know that was an option when I was a kid. I might come home and said, I'm going to lead trout fishing. It would never happen because I hope always when I fish, I don't catch a fish because it's messy business. But there's people that love it and we love them. So two of my favorite definitions of success. Earl Nightingale once said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. What I love about that definition is two parts. One is you have a say in shaping the worthy ideal. So if this person, he wanted to find a way to make a living and do as much fishing as possible. Well, that's not my worthy ideal, but I find it worthy because he had the courage to do that. So I find him worthy and I say, I wouldn't want to be you, but I love you, go fish, And so this is the way with all the human beings. But unfortunately, we are taught these narrow pathways and some people just can't navigate them. And so then they have a choice, but they don't have true choice. So momentum and progressive, I said twofold. First is that you get to refine, define, clarify what a worthy ideal is to you. And as long as it's ethical in and of itself, and I define that just, if you're destroying other people so you can go trout fishing, you lose some worthiness of your ideal, So in this case, that doesn't exist. I don't know how this person got to be my example today. That was serendipitous. I hadn't thought about that guy in 22 years, but here he is. That's the way the universe works. That just came to me. But my point is, the other definition I like is success comes from the Norse, which means step after step after step, the same root as succession. So it's a series of steps. And so that's where we get that quote about, failure not being permanent. It's just that, okay, what's the next step? Well, that didn't work out. What's the next step? Instead of, oh, what a loser I am. And so I have a process called losing, winning, and non-winning. And the idea is you are a winner regardless of the evidence. And this was an L, but it doesn't say who you are. You said, I'm going to make 36,000 by the end of the quarter, and you made 26,000. Why not just own it? That's an L. That didn't work out. But I'm a winner. And I go, I wonder what I could do, And so that's just feedback. But when you start putting the I am next to your results, then you could say, I'm cooked. Because some will, some won't, next please, right? You put too much of your soul in the wrong place, too much on the outcome rather than the being.
Well, and that's why a good coach can kick our butts, right? And help us get back on track.
Because you're not kicking my value. You're just asking me, and since you're a good coach, you'd ask a question, like Dr. Phil, how's this working for you? And I'd say, Betska, not very well. And then you lead me to make some new choices, not to come to some conclusion that I am this, I am that, or I'm the other. It's just that we suggest you not do that. That's why conversation is the currency.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell you what, Tom and Raj, let's take a brief pause, and we're going to come back to part 2 to discuss self-leadership. That's what I've been hearing Tom talk about for the last 15 minutes. So let's dive into that in part 2.